Hi, this is Brian Madden. I am one of the creators of the Mission Pinball Framework, and in this video I want to show off a new utility we have. We call it the Font Tester. And in the Mission Pinball Framework we use TrueType fonts. And TrueType fonts can be kind of tricky for pinball machines, especially with DMD displays, because the displays are so low resolution, so the fonts can kind of look weird. So anyway, it's in the tools folder in the Mission Pinball Framework download. So do Python font tester.py, then point it to a folder that has TrueType fonts in it. So I'll run that. Let me just center this window here, the recording window. So then this window pops up, and you see here it's got a few things. In the upper left corner, it shows what font it currently is loaded, shows the size of the font, and then in the lower left corner it shows whether anti-aliasing is on or off. So to use this, it's just sort of an interactive tool you can use to explore different fonts. So you can use the left and right arrow keys to just cycle through different fonts. And so this is just going through every single font that it has in the folder. And they're sort of, it's pulling them up in sort of alphabetical order. I can use up and down arrow keys to change the size. So if I want to see this one and just tap, 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 tap. Okay, so here's now, 29, 30 points. And I can sort of see what different fonts look like. I can also push Control A in Windows or Command A in Mac. This, by the way, this is a standalone program. It doesn't require Mission Pinball Framework. It runs all by itself. It just requires Pygame. Works on Mac, Linux, and Windows. So if I do Control A, now it turns on anti-aliasing. And so you can see how that looks. Now this one C is too high. So if I hold down Shift and tap down, I can sort of lower it to just so I can see the whole thing. So I'm just hitting the left key a bunch of times to see some different fonts, and man, I don't know what all these are. It's a lot of fonts in here. So I will shift and just put that back up. It's kind of cool. So anyway, you get an idea. I'll move this down. Oh, by the way, so I can type letters too. So like I'm just typing BRIAN, Madden, Mission, hello, numbers. So whatever I type just shows up there. So it's not, just kind of showing hello. And if we find one that we want, maybe this one looks kind of cool. So I'll do this Mission. Let me make it a little bit smaller. I'll turn off anti-aliasing to see how that looks. No, this one bigger, smaller. Yeah, if I do this, I want it to be anti-alias. I'll turn on anti-aliasing. So this is cool. Now, what I can do is when I find a font that I like, I can push Control S, and I'll take a snapshot of it, and that actually puts it into a folder. So if I go back to the Finder, it creates, wherever I'm running this tool from, see it says Font Tester, it creates font snapshots. And then that SWAT RG underscore, that's the name of the font, which, yep, there you go, that's the name of the font. Then -29 is showing, that's the font size 29. And then AA means I've got anti-aliasing turned on, and Y1 is the Y offset when I was moving that up and down. So I can look at that and just see the screenshot there. But I'll go back into this. Now, the other thing with Mission Pinball Framework and using fonts, using TrueType fonts in these games, is that some of the fonts, they render sort of extra pixels on top and bottom. So I can push Control B, which I call it for like background, and it turns the font background green. Now, here it just looks like it turned the whole window green, but if I make this font size smaller, you see, so that's the actual space that the font itself takes up. And if I go through different fonts, you see there's different sort of sizes, like different spacing around them. So if I render one of these fonts with the size it is now, it's going to render inside that whole box, and it makes it hard because like this box right here, if I render this font and then top justify it, I mean, it's like all that space is on top. So when we add this font to Mission Pinball Framework, we have to specify how many pixels we want to trim off the top and the bottom if it renders it, in a way that doesn't really make sense. Not all fonts do that, by the way, so some of them do. I'll do Control B to turn that bounding box back off. So, and you can sort of use these in combination. So like once I find a font that I want, okay, let's say this one. This one looks kind of cool. Comic script. So I'm going to just zoom, and let's say this is the font that I want in my game. I'm going to turn off anti-aliasing. Nope, that looks awful, so I'll turn that back on. So okay, this is good. I want this in my game. I can kind of center it by holding Shift, and maybe I'm ready to take a snapshot of this. But first, I'm going to turn that bounding box again. So I'm going to turn on Control B. And now you see here the bounding box, it's hitting the top and the bottom, so I don't actually know how many pixels I need to cut off the top of this font. So I'm going to use the Shift key and then down arrow a few times. Okay, so now here I can count and I can see that I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So when I'm running this font at size 32, I need to cut 8 pixels off the top. I'm going to do Control S to take a snapshot of that. I'm use Shift and do up to grab the bottom and take a snapshot of that too. And so now I can go ahead and recenter it. So now I've got snapshots of this font in both positions. And if I go back to my folders, so see there, it's Comic Sans, size 32. AA means anti-aliasing. BB means I'm showing a bounding box. And this one is showing the -7 Y position. This is the 5 position. So I can just look at those two and say I've got the screenshots of these. By the way, so the format for these screenshots, it'll try and do it in JPEG, which you can do if you have the Python image library module added to your Python. So it'll try and do JPEG if you have that. If it can't do JPEG, it'll fall back to doing bitmap. So either one is fine. Bitmap is uncompressed though, so the JPEGs are like 80K whatever, and the uncompressed ones are over a megabyte per picture. So it'll try JPEG if it can. But anyway, so now this is font size 32. Now in the game, this whole height of the DMD right here is only 32 pixels tall. So personally, I like to give my fonts a game size that sort of is the numbers of pixels tall they are in the game. Like the orange part of this font looks like it's about 24 pixels tall. So I might put this into my game as size 24, but then actually render it as font size 32 and then turn off the top and bottom. That's in the documentation. You can explore that later. So anyway, I'm going to turn off the bounding box here and just look for some more fonts. Oh, this one's kind of cool. Probably too big, so let me just hit down arrow a few more times. And it doesn't look as good when it's small. See, this is why this thing is good, because this font looks really good when it's big. Like that looks kind of cool. But once I get it down too small, it doesn't look so good. So let me try and turn off anti-aliasing. Maybe if I try some more text. I don't know. Yeah, no, I think that font's not going to work. That's kind of fun. Let's turn on anti-aliasing. Maybe I like these. I don't know. Let's see. That one's kind of fun. Again, so I don't know how big or how small this one can work. Yeah, it doesn't look too good at that size. Oops. That's what happens on a Mac if you hit the Control and up arrow at the same time. Oops, I just did it again. Okay, so yeah, see this font's kind of too wide, so it looks good at first, but isn't really gonna work. Let's try this again. Yeah, I'm not really sure. So you can just kind of run through these things. And just find fonts that might work for you. The thing about the pinball machines is they're pretty narrow, so I kind of imagine, okay, something like free play. Yeah, that could. Oops, again, I hit the Control up. So free play, that might be a little too big. Let me turn off anti-aliasing. Nope, turn that back on. Yeah, maybe I like this one. So I'm going to go ahead and Control B to turn on my bounding box. Okay, my bounding box here is completely within the boundaries of this frame, so I don't need to sort of move it up and down. So I'll do Control S, take a screenshot of that, and then now I've got that font called POMPC, size 20 with anti-aliasing and a bounding box, and there's my screenshot. So I think that's about all you need to know with this tool. You can configure everything, by the way, inside the tool itself. So it's really easy. At the top of the file, there's a bunch of stuff you can edit, and you can change the size of the DMD on the screen, what color of dots it renders, the spacing between the dots. There's all sorts of different things that you can sort of play with. So anyway, that's the Mission Pinball Framework font tester. So yeah, have at it. Go find some fun fonts.